How do you determine how many calories you need? So, when it comes to our diets, we all know that we need to consume food that contains an appropriate number of calories. This is because our bodies require energy to function. However, what constitutes an appropriate amount varies from person to person, as we all have different bodies with different energy requirements. Therefore, in order to eat an appropriate amount, we need to determine how much that is to us individually. If we don't know how many calories constitutes an appropriate amount for us individually, then it makes it a lot harder for us to actually eat that much. This in turn can have negative consequences on our health. If we don't consume sufficient calories, then we can feel lethargic. However, if we consume too much energy, we will store the excess as fat, where too much fat can lead to serious health issues. Having been overweight myself, I've suffered the negative consequences that it can bring. Luckily for me, I had no serious health issues, but it did prevent me from getting on the sports teams that I wanted to be on because I wasn't mobile enough. But when I became consciously aware of how many calories I needed, the tables started to turn. So, how do you determine how many calories you need for yourself? The answer to that question is to use this mathematical equation that I'm going to walk you through now. First, take your weight in kilograms and multiply it by 9.99, and then save that number. So for example, for me, as I weigh 92.0 kilograms, I would times 92 by 9.99, which gives a total of 919.08. Then, take your height in centimetres and multiply it by 6.25. You then add that to your first number and again save the result. So, for me, as I am 180 centimetres, multiplying that by 6.25 gives me 1,125. So, 1,125 plus the 919.08 from earlier gives me 2,044.08. Then, take your age and multiply it by 4.92. You then take the result of that away from the sum of the first two numbers. So for me, 27 multiplied by 4.92 is 132.84. That, taken away from 2044.08 from earlier, gives me 1911.24. Then, finally, if you're male, add 5. But if you're female, take away 161. So for me, 5 plus 1911.24 gives me 1916.24 calories. That number is my basal metabolic rate. In other words, it is the number of calories that I need just to keep me alive and my body running. However, naturally we don't just lie down and do nothing all day. We move about and take part in activities. So, a more appropriate number is your resting metabolic rate. This is the amount of energy you expend during a day of rest. You obtain this number by multiplying your basal metabolic rate by 1.2. So for me, taking my basal metabolic rate of 1916 and multiplying that by 1.2 gives me 2,300 calories. So that is how many calories I should eat on a day of rest. But if I also did any exercise, I would also need to add any energy I burnt off doing that exercise to my resting metabolic rate. So, for example, if I burnt off 500 calories by swimming, then my daily energy expenditure would be 2,300 plus that additional 500 calories. So, in total, 2,000 800 calories. How many calories you burn off doing exercise varies by intensity, duration, and your own personal characteristics. Therefore, in order to work out how many calories you burn off via exercise, you can find some great calculators by searching online. If you're wondering how else you can get more from your food, grab a copy of my 5-step guide to perfect your diet, a link to which can be found in the description. Otherwise, if you're watching this on YouTube, click here to subscribe to my channel and make sure that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And click here for another video on how you can take your athletic performance to the next level. I'll see you in the next video.